Hi everyone, Yari from StoreYa here, and I'm very excited to have the #1 Facebook ads expert, Ben Malul, who will talk with us about how to scale up Facebook ads. Ben, the floor is yours.
Thanks, Yuri, for having me. So basically, they brought me here to discuss some e-commerce advertising strategies, and what they've been really doing with StoreYa is amazing. So what I actually wanted to talk about today is basically scaling Facebook advertising campaigns for e-commerce, which luckily for you, I'm really good at, and that's where 99% of my experience came from. Because not a lot of people know this, but the scalability that you can actually do with physical products in e-commerce is probably almost limitless. And especially if you're doing like drop shipping, where it's literally you're just scaling, and the more you scale, the more money comes in, the more demand you can give. The more demand, the more supply that you can give. So that's why it's really important that you understand how this works, and if you utilize it correctly, you're gonna see phenomenal results. Because with scaling, it's probably the #1 bottleneck that people usually have with e-commerce. You have a profitable campaign, and then you're thinking, okay, how do I scale this without compromising ROI, which is the biggest factor. A lot of people can scale, and you probably tried it, and you just noticed that, well, okay, I tried scaling, and for some reason my CPAs are triple, even more sometimes than my original ads, and that's what happens a lot with scaling. So what I wanted to talk about is a structure that, I'm not going to say it does not compromise ROI, because any scaling will compromise ROI, and if anybody tells you otherwise, they're lying. Any scaling that you do will compromise some ROI. What we want to do is compromise the least as possible and scale as efficiently as possible. So you see this chart now, it's probably Chinese to you now, so I'm going to explain exactly what's going on here so you can actually start utilizing it for yourself. Okay, so I'm going to take a quick sip of water and I'm going to get started. So first of all, what is scaling? Okay, when somebody tells you to scale a campaign, what does it really mean? Now, a lot of people think that it means, okay, I'm wasting $10 and I'm getting 5,000 visitors, 5,000 impressions. So that means if I spend $1,000, I'm gonna get 500,000 impressions, right? Because yeah, it's times 500, right? So that's not true. That's not the case. It's not if you spend more, you're gonna get more. Not identically 100%. Of course, that's what we want to get. For spending more, we want to get more impressions, but it's not that if you spend $10, you're going to get this amount, and if you spend 10 times 10, you're going to get times 10 impressions. The more you spend, the less the CPM is, basically. So if you get, let's say, $3 CPM, and CPM is 1,000 impressions for $1, if you don't know that. So on $10, let's say you get 3,300 CPM, 3,300 impressions, which is $3.3 CPM. It doesn't mean that if you multiply it by 10, that you'll actually get that same amount. The CPM will always go a bit higher, which means that you're going to pay more per impression. Now, those sneezes are the dog here, by the way, so don't worry about that. Now, with that being said, if you're in e-commerce, then what you usually do probably is you test a lot of products, right? You test a lot of products, you test on, I hope, low budgets. If you don't do low budgets, then you should do low budgets. Anywhere from $5 to $30 is a good basically place to start testing. Now, you either have website conversions, right? You have PPE, you have video views, you have clicks to websites. Now I want you to first of all understand, I don't know how much knowledge you have on how the optimization works, but with website conversion ads, you have to have past data for it to work. So you won't optimize for purchases or adds to cart or like view content or basically any objective if you don't have past data. What do I mean by past data? You won't optimize for purchases if you don't have constant purchases happening on a daily basis. Constant, anywhere from 5 to 10 and over, is constant purchases. Because when you're optimizing on a certain action, for example purchases, then Facebook looks on the purchases that you're getting, it looks on those people, it looks at that data, and then it finds patterns, and then when you optimize on purchases, you send out a website conversion on purchases, it takes that data and then finds people that are similar to the people that bought from you before. So don't try to send a website conversion ad on an objective that you don't have data on. Don't try to send a website conversion purchase if you don't have purchases. Don't try to send out website conversion adds to cart if you don't have adds to cart. What I like to look at is I ask myself, do I have at least 15 of this conversion that I'm optimizing for a day? So if I want to send a website conversion purchase, I'll ask myself, do I have 15 purchases a day? If the answer is yes, I can do that. If no, I'll ask myself, what is the step behind? So the step behind a purchase is an add to cart, right? And the step behind an add to cart is a view content, which is the first thing that happens when they arrive on the website. So that's why you want to ask yourself, do I have enough conversions to optimize on this? Now, of course, you want to optimize on your end goal eventually, right? You want to get more purchases. That's the whole purpose of us advertising. We want to get more people to buy. But if we don't have enough data, we'll just take it one step behind. Adds to cart. It's going to be less buyer's intent, but it's still going to be relevant data, because eventually a certain percentage of people that add to cart will eventually purchase, right? So that's why sometimes, by the way, a website conversion add to cart will work better than a purchase, but I'm not going to go too in depth on that. I don't want to overwhelm you. So just ask yourself, when you're testing, ask yourself, what do you have the most data on? If it's not what you have the most data on, but if you have enough data on the end goal, which is purchases. So if you have 15 conversions a day on that purchase, at least minimum, overall on your pixel, overall on your ad account, then you're good to send out a purchase ad, which is usually the case with most people, because as long as you're not like completely beginning, you should be able to basically optimize on that action. Okay, now that's website conversion. Okay, that's website conversion. Website conversion is anything that happens in your website, in your website, which is outside website. In your website, that's where the website conversions happen. Anything that happens outside of Facebook. Now, a PPE, clicks to website, video views, and basically every other campaign objective happens on Facebook, right? So a PPE, a clicks to website, which today it's called traffic. Facebook changed their campaign objective every week, the name of them at least. So you got PPE, clicks to website, you got video views, and you got basically every other campaign objective almost. That happens inside Facebook, okay? Now what does that mean? That means that the optimization that happens on a PPE, clicks to website, and video views, which is the engagement campaign, the traffic campaign, and the video views campaign, happen inside Facebook. The optimization happens with basically just you releasing the ad. So that's why website conversion, you need your data, right? You need data because it's working on conversions that happen on your website. And with the other objectives, it happens inside Facebook. So you don't need past data. You can release a PPE or clicks to website or video views off the bat. You don't need to wait for data. You can just send them out just like that. That's why I usually start with these if I don't have any data. That means it's a completely new store. That means I have almost no data on my pixel, on my ad account. The second I start having data, it doesn't mean if it's like, you don't have to wait for specific data on a certain product. I'm talking about overall on your store, because the data is universal per pixel, which is per ad account. So the second I have enough data, I can send out a website conversion ad. So I assume most of you already have some sales. As long as you already have some sales, then you have enough data. So website conversion can work because it's taking the data from before and using that to find new customers to convert on what you're optimizing for. If it's a purchase or an add to cart or a view content or whatever. With that being said, I hope you understood how that works. Now that's how the optimization works. Now I want to explain to you really how to break down scaling on the highest level. So when you're testing products, you're probably testing them on low budget ads, right? So anywhere from $5 to $30. Now you have to understand that there's an optimization that happens on the ad set level. So when you release an ad set, it takes a few days for it to optimize. It can run horribly for 2 days, 3 days, and then suddenly on the 4th or 5th day it starts working good. Because the more conversions it gets on the ad set on what you're optimizing for, the more it optimizes. So once it gets like 5 conversions, for example, it already starts to optimize from the first conversion. But the more conversions it gets, the more it optimizes. So if you're sending a website conversion purchase, it's gonna take until the optimization happens, it's not gonna optimize. So until the conversion happens, it's not gonna optimize. So if you're sending a website conversion purchase, for example, you got to get those purchases. Now sometimes you won't get those purchases, right? So do we wait till we get purchases or do we close the ad? So that's something that you want to test and see. If it's been a few days and you're not getting the conversion, then after 4 days you can probably close it. Now the more expensive the product, the more rarely you're getting these conversions, because it takes longer for you to basically get those conversions, because when it's more expensive, you know there's less customers. So that's why you want to let a test ad run anywhere from like 3 to 4 days. And then it's going to start to optimize once it gets that conversion. So if you're optimizing for purchase, once it gets purchases, it's going to start optimizing. And the more purchases it gets, the more it optimizes. So that's why after a week or something like that, you can know if you want to scale that out or not. Sometimes even after a few days if you're getting constant purchases. So anywhere from $5 to $30, I like to test anywhere from 10 to 15. And I send that out where I just send it to the interest that I'm targeting, right? Automatic bidding. I don't know if you guys are dealing with automatic bidding or manual bidding, but you know, you can bid on, you can bid on how much, on the conversion and how much it's worth to you. So probably most of you are doing automatic bidding. That's what most people are doing, and that's okay. That's completely fine. The scalability with automatic bidding is less than with manual bidding, and that's what I want to talk about today. So you're sending out that automatic bidding campaign on the website conversion that you have, like we talked about before, at least 15 conversions on overall on the ad account. So most probably if you have 15 purchases on your store, you can send out the website conversion purchase, right? So you send that out. I send it out to mobile and desktop to the interest that you researched and that was converting for you or that you want to test. Now I like to give an ad at least for it to spend at least between $30 to $35 before I close it. Okay, something like that. Now it changes a lot depending on the price of the product, but I assume you're selling products anywhere from $10 to $50, so that's basically the average. Let an ad run until it spends $30, $35 and see what's happening. See, is it converting? If it's not, you just close it, right? If it is, then we start to think about how we scale. So once you're spending $30, $35, we look at the ad, right? The ad set. We ask ourselves, do we have positive ROI? Do we have positive return on investment? Are we making more money on this ad set than we are losing? So is it making more money than it is spending, right? So I spent $35 on this ad set, did I make more than that? If I did more than that, then we have positive return on investment, right? Now sometimes it's 100% ROI, sometimes it's 50%, sometimes it's 500%. As long as you have a positive ROI, you can scale. Okay, now by scaling, we want to make more money from this product. We want to make more money from this offer. So we have a few different strategies that we can take. Now, what you see here is the manual bidding scaling structure that basically you can go from making $200 a day to $5,000 a day in basically a night or 2 nights sometimes, if you do it correctly. Sometimes it takes longer than that, but this is a very, very fast scaling method. Now there's a few scaling methods that you can do, and this is the most efficient one that I want to talk about. But first of all, if you don't want to get all complicated and deal with this, there's a very simple scaling method that you can do that basically anybody can do, and it's super simple. It's going to take more time to scale, but for those of you that want to, it's easier for you, like you want something that's more easy and just one click of a button, then what you want to do is you want to increase the ad budget by 20%, okay? So I'm going to call this the slow scale. Okay, so I'm going to call this the slow scale, and that's increase budget plus 20%. Okay? Why 20% and not 200%? Because if you increase the budget too much, the optimization is gonna get screwed. You want to increase it slowly. How do you increase it slowly? By 20%. So if the budget is 20 bucks, 20% is $4, you increase it from $20 to $24. Okay, and you see what's happening. Is the ad still working good? Great. 24 hours later, you can increase it again by 20%. Now that's really simple, right? That's what I tell my mom to do, because I'm not explaining this to her. I tell her this because it's super simple. If an ad works, if an ad set works, you just increase it by 20%. Now this is the slow scale. This is going to take time to scale, but it's very consistent, it's stable, It happens slowly, but it's easy. So if you don't want to get all complicated, you can do this. But today I want to talk about this here. Now, if an ad is working, okay, you can do both of them, by the way. So if you decide to do this, forget about this, right? Now, this, by the way, before I move away from this, you keep increasing by 20% until the ad stops to get better. So on $20, if it's working good, you increase it to 24. Is the ad still working good? You let it run for 1-2 days. You ask yourself, is it still good? If it is, you increase it again by 20%. And you keep doing that until it just stops working good, right? So that's the slow scale. We're going to put that aside and we're going to go to the big boy scale here, right? So we start off the ad, we let it run positive ROI. This is what we do. Now, every ad set will what does Facebook ads do? What does Facebook do? They automatically optimize on certain things that happen, and that the demographic that optimizes the most. So if you're targeting ages 18 to 50, right, males and females in the United States, then automatically what's going to happen to that ad set on the back end, Facebook decides who to show the ad to depending on the results that it gets. So if it sees that mostly females are converting, it's not going to show your ad to males as much. It's going to show it mostly to females. Okay, that's how Facebook ads work. If it sees that it's converting mostly in Texas, New York, and Ohio, then it's going to start showing your ad mostly to those areas. You don't know this because you can't see it unless you break down the ad set. You can click on the breakdown button in the ad manager and you're going to see exactly where your ad is shown with the reach and where you're getting the best results. So if you break down the placements, which is where your ad is shown in terms of like mobile, desktop, Instagram, then you can see where your ad is basically getting the best results. And usually, I don't know if you noticed, but 80% of the traffic that you're getting is probably from mobile. Because most people that are on Facebook are on their phone. So first of all, make sure, other than this, make sure that your store is optimized for mobile 100%. That's super, super important. But other than that, you'll notice that if you break down the ad set, you'll see where your ad set is shown the most. If you do that, you break down the placement, I want you to break it down to placements. So mobile and desktop. Click the breakdown, click placement, you'll see your ad set and you'll see mobile, desktop, how much you're paying for mobile, how much you're paying from desktop, and the reach of it. You'll notice that one of them is getting shown more. Okay, either mobile or desktop, one of them is getting more of the reach because like I said, Facebook automatically optimizes and basically shows your ad to one of those placements depending on the results that it gets. Most of the time it's mobile, but check that. Now, you want to look at where you're getting the lower CPA. Where are you paying less for that action? So you got mobile, you got desktop, right? You got that one ad set that's targeting mobile and desktop. You're breaking it down. You're seeing mobile and desktop. You're seeing where do I get cheaper CPA? Where do I get cheaper actions? One of them you might get $4 per purchase, and the other one you want to get $6.50 per purchase. And the one that's cheaper, okay, the one that's cheaper, what you want to do is you want to duplicate that ad, okay, duplicate the ad that's working, right? And now you have one in mind, right? You have either mobile or desktop. One of them is converting. The cost per action is cheaper. If mobile is cheaper, you duplicate that and you only target mobile. On the same interest, whatever you're targeting, everything is the same. You keep everything in the same, but you only leave it on mobile. Okay, you remove the desktop, you only leave it on mobile. And basically what you want to do is you want to put a budget of at least $300 minimum and manual bid. Okay, on the same conversion, by the way. So if it's purchase, if it's add to cart, you don't change anything. You duplicate that and you just remove the placement that has the higher CPA. So like I said, in this case, our mobile is the lower CPA. I'm just going to leave it on mobile. I'm going to keep it at the same opposite conversion, and I'm going to give a budget of $300 and over. So a quick disclaimer, I only run this type of scaling method to audiences, if my audience is below 500,000, sorry, if my audience is over 500,000. Okay, because only with audiences over 500,000 you have this much of scalability. So that's why I personally don't deal with sending products to less than 500,000 because I don't see any potential in scalability, and I only deal with things that I see potential scalability. I'm not thinking of making a few thousands from a product. I'm thinking how can I scale it to a few tens of thousands, if not hundreds of thousands, right? So this only to audience, only if your audience is over 500,000. Okay, if not, let's do the slow scale. Okay, let's do the slow scale if you have less than 500,000. So other than that, of course, you can build lookalike audiences as well. Now, I'm not going to go too much in depth on that because that's going to be another 2 hours, but with lookalike audiences, you build an audience, right, of people that are relevant to you according to the data that you have, and then you build an audience that's very, very big audiences, 1% of the population. But I'm moving away from the topic, so I'm going to get to that in a second. So, okay, audience over 500,000, positive ROI on the ad set, good, we can scale. So we find where the lower CPA is on the ad set, like what I talked about before. We look at the placements, mobile and desktop. Here we decided that mobile is cheaper, so we duplicate that ad set to mobile. We remove the desktop placement. We only target mobile, website conversion on the same objective. $300 minimum budget. What I like to do is I like to take the cost per action and I like to multiply it by 100. But some people are afraid to do that. That's why you can do $300 as long as it's over that. What I mean by times 100 is if the CPA, the cost per action, was $5. If I was paying $5 per purchase on the test ad, I'll duplicate it by 100. So I'll put $500, right? The reason for that, why am I putting such a high budget? Because when you're manual bidding, what you're doing is you're controlling the budget. You're basically controlling the budget. The thing about manual bidding is that you're putting a specific bid, and what happens is that Facebook won't spend your money if it can't find conversions below that bid. So if I'm putting a manual bid on a purchase, if I'm putting like $10 on that manual bid, what I'm actually doing is I'm telling Facebook, listen Facebook, if you can't find your purchases under $10, don't spend my money. So that's why manual bid is basically really safe. So that's why I'm not afraid even to put $10,000 on an ad set. Okay, if I put a manual bid, I basically limit Facebook. I like to call it controlling budget. Because when you're putting a manual bid, Facebook will not spend your money if it does not find conversions below that bid. So that's why we duplicate to a manual bid. Minimum $300 budget, only mobile. The bid, what do we do with the bid? We take our cost per action. Okay, so like I said, it depends on how much we're paying per purchase, and we duplicate it by 2. That's the bid. Okay, so the bid would be CPA times 2, right? So if we're paying $5 per purchase, we're gonna take that, multiply it by 2, and we have $10. So that's gonna be our bid. What you're actually telling Facebook, now the reason we're going high is because we want Facebook to spend. We want Facebook to get traffic. And then what happens is we start decreasing the bid depending on the results that we're getting. So we start getting traffic and we want Facebook to spend money. We want Facebook to spend anywhere from $50 to $100. And it's okay if you're losing money. It's okay if the CPA is high. It's okay that basically the ad is expensive because we want it to get traffic because it needs to optimize. Don't forget what we talked about before, where the ad set needs a few conversions for it to basically optimize. So we let that run, and then once it starts spending, once it spends like 50, 100, we look at our CPA on the new ad. Is it high? If we're losing money here, we ask ourselves, are we losing money here? If the answer is yes, we start reducing the bid. Now what happens when you reduce the bid? You're basically reducing the bid. Facebook will spend less money, and the CPA will go down. Okay, remember this, the rule with manual bidding is you increasing the bid makes Facebook spend more money, and it increases the CPA. You lowering the bid decreases the ad spend and decreases the cost per action. Okay, those are the 2 rules that you need to remember. So if you're spending money and the cost per action is expensive, by you reducing the bid, you're going to lower the cost per action and you're going to lower how much the ad set is spending. Okay, so you keep doing that until you get to a point where you're okay with the CPA. Because you keep reducing the bid, and what happens is that you'll notice that eventually Facebook will spend a sum of that $300 and daily, of course, everything that I'm saying is on a daily basis. Daily, and the CPA will go down until a point that you're satisfied with. Now once you do that, that's going to take you a few days. Sometimes first 24 hours it's going to work. Once you do that, you duplicate that to the other placement. So we started with mobile, right? We duplicate that to desktop. So if we started with desktop, we duplicate that to mobile. Okay, so now we're mobile, now we duplicate it, we remove mobile, and we only target desktop, right? So you see manual bid works at conversion desktop, manual bid works at conversion mobile. We start with what we have the lower CPA and the test ad. Remember what I talked about? And then once it starts working and we got it all figured out and it's good, we just duplicate that to the different placement and we do the same exact process. Okay, we start we multiply the CPA times 2, that's our bid, and we decrease it slowly until we get to a sweet spot, okay? Now these two ads are basically, the thing about manual bidding is that the bid controls how much the money is spent. By me saying the daily budget is $300, I'm not expecting Facebook to spend these $300 every day. Because I'm doing manual bidding, it's going to limit it. It's not going to spend everything, because once I release the bid, I reduce it and reduce it and reduce it, it's going to find me more cheaper and cheaper conversions, but it's actually going to spend less and less and less. That's how Facebook works. Okay, it's an auction system. The more you're bidding, the more you're letting Facebook spend, the more you're letting Facebook compete you with other advertisers. The less you spend, the less it lets you to compete, the lower your CPA. And then after you do these two should work pretty good. That's when you're actually starting to make good money. You can start scaling to the lookalike audiences. If you don't know what the lookalike audience is, I'm gonna give you a quick explanation, but research it, because like I said, I don't wanna get this too long. It can go a full hour. The lookalike audience, you build it off a conversion. So you can build a lookalike audience from all the people that bought from you, or all the people that added to cart, all the people that visited your website. And that lookalike audience is a huge audience of 2 million. That's if you do it from the United States. A huge audience that you can basically do this whole process to again. So after you do this, you do it to the lookalike audiences as well, and you basically do the same process. You send out the ad, you send out a test ad to the lookalike audience, by the way. So that's why these errors are not really correct, because I will not scale to a lookalike audience before testing it. Remember, a lookalike audience is just like any other audience, right? It's still an audience that you want to test and see if it even works. So test ad, I will still start with a test ad on the lookalike audience, right? So this test and this test as well. Okay, before you scale on a lookalike, you want to test them. So how do you test? Same thing like we tested before. Automatic bidding, $5 to $30, mobile and desktop. If that works, guess what you do? You go here, right? Boom. Because then you ask yourself, do I have a positive ROI on these? If I do the same exact process. What has lower CPA? Is it mobile? Is it desktop? I duplicate it to there. High budget, minimum $300, and then I start with bid CPA times 2, and I start reducing it until it's profitable. And that's basically the structure in a nutshell. Now make sure that when you're doing manual bidding, okay, this is super important, because if you don't do this, you're gonna come scream at me. You have to make sure to look at your budget. To look at your ad set the second you release these ones, because what you're doing is you're throwing a lot of money on Facebook. You're giving it a high bid, right? Because this bid is CPA times 2, and what Facebook is gonna do is gonna spend your money. Okay, most cases, it will spend more money than it's making. That's why first few hours you want to look at it, and after it spends some, you start reducing the bid. Okay, that's why you don't release this and go to sleep. And that's the biggest mistake. Okay, I did this. I went to sleep. I lost $500 in the morning. Make sure to look at it at least the first 2 hours. Make sure that it's not spending all your money, because once it starts spending a lot, after it spends like $100, you want to look at the CPA. Is it good? Is it making money? If it is, you just keep it as it is. Great. If it's not, you reduce the bid. Okay, you have to reduce the bid until it gets to a point where you're satisfied with how much it's spending and you're satisfied with the cost per action. And again, if once this works, you build lookalike audiences from the data, and you do this whole thing to the lookalike audiences, and that's basically it with this. Again, if you don't want to get into this, and this is a little bit too complicated for you, and you're afraid to do this, there's no actual reason, by the way. I don't want you to think that it's like, oh my god, I don't want to lose all my money. It's usually not like that, because if you control the bid, if you keep on it for like 1-2 hours, then you'll see how much it's spending, and then you can, with that, you can just keep reducing it until you're happy with how much the asset is spending. But you have to keep a lookout on the bid. Remember, the bid is the only thing you control. The bid is the only thing you play with. The budget, you don't need to touch it, because by you playing with the bid, you're basically telling Facebook to spend less money. Okay, it's as easy as that. Reducing bid, Facebook spends less money. Increasing the bid, Facebook will spend more money. So if it's spending too much, you're losing money, you reduce the bid. Now you have to look at this on a daily basis, right? Every few days, look at your bid. Is the ad still working good? If it isn't, change the bid accordingly, right? If the ad isn't spending any money, sometimes the ad set won't spend anything, that means that the bid is too low. And that happens when the ad declines. It can take a few weeks, it can take a month, it can take 2 months. But the second the ad declines, you just increase the bid. If the ad is spending too much money and the CPA is too high, you reduce the bid. And that's, you just play with the bid until you're satisfied and you get to a sweet spot. Okay, that's what we call a sweet spot, where the bid is exactly at the point where the CPA is good, we're spending a good amount of money, and we're getting good results. And then you, like I said, lookalike audiences, and that's basically it with the scaling method. Some things to remember is just remember to look at how much the asset is spending at the first few hours that you release the asset. Make sure to play with the bid, release it to lookalike audiences once you see these working, because lookalike audiences are super powerful, and they're gonna be probably where you're gonna make most of your money, because these are super powerful. They're based only on your own data. That's why lookalike audiences will always eventually work better than any interest targeting. And again, slow scale, only use that if the audience that you're targeting has below 500,000, and if you don't want to get too complicated, because this is super simple, right? If an ad set works, you just increase the budget by 20% and you keep doing that. And with that being said, guys, that's it. I hope you enjoyed this lesson of scaling with Ben Malol. I'll see you soon.
Thank you, Ben. That was really awesome. Amazing lesson. If anyone have any question, we'll be happy for you to write in as a comment in the blog. Thank you.